we are over halfway through the programme. Sarah Alexander, please.
Can a 44-year-old teacher be groomed by a 16-year-old pupil?
This was the decision of the judge, Joanna Greenberg.
She's sentencing.
When sentencing, yes, Stuart Kerner gave him a suspended sentence. He's a 44-year-old school teacher because the person he was alleged to have, or he was found guilty of having had sex with, was 16 years old, and she said he had been groomed by her.
She actually said, because I read the sentencing remarks, he'd been convicted after a trial because he always denied it. So I am surprised the sentence was suspended in those circumstances, if I may say. And actually, when you read what she said, she said, if anything, she groomed you.
Yes.
I only put that in so that we see it in the context. But she shouldn't have said that, because you're quite absolutely right. It's inconceivable for a 16-year-old to groom a 44-year-old married man. He willingly did what he did. Now, whether in all the circumstances, and this is always a problem that we have, because we've not been the jury, we've not been the judge, we've not heard all the facts, but certainly in what I have read, I have to say, I thought it was the sort of case, there used to be an old criminal barrister, blah, blah. I was surprised that the sentence was suspended, particularly because he'd had a trial, and therefore he'd put this young woman through the ordeal of a trial. And when people don't put their hands up and admit what they've done wrong, your sympathy levels quite properly drop. I was surprised. I think the Attorney General is doing the right thing by looking at the sort of offences which he can then take to the Court of Appeal.
They're saying they can't take this.
And they can't take this one.
Yes, all right. Well, category. Yes, all right. But the issue is I think the moral one. Douglas Alexander.
Like Anna, I was a lawyer before I became a member of Parliament. Just let me finish the sentence. Yes, moving from one popular profession to another.
Yes.
And she's right. We haven't seen all of the evidence. We weren't there in court. So I'm not the kind of politician who normally takes pot shots at judges. But as a parent, I was disgusted by this ruling. Absolutely disgusted. I send my daughter to school every day, and I have a reasonable expectation and right to expect that my daughter will be safe at school. And there's a basic truth about schools, which is the adults are the teachers. And we're talking about a 16-year-old girl and a 44-year-old man.
Married.
To me, it is pretty obvious who is the adult in that circumstance. Now, personally, I thought we'd left these kind of attitudes behind. It is, to my mind, just sickening to suggest that somehow, if he was in a fragile mental state, if he's in a fragile mental state, he shouldn't be teaching children, or he should go to the head teacher.
Absolutely.
Teachers are encountering these kind of situations reasonably regularly during their professional life. All teachers know what is the right and responsible course of action. If they aren't able to deal with it themselves, they go to the head teacher, but they must never forget that they are in a position of unique responsibility with our children. This man clearly forgot that responsibility, and I find it incredulous that with the Judicial Studies Board and everything else, a judge in the 21st century could utter those words.
Whilst I understand that she was 16 and vulnerable, she consented to what happened. What about victims of rape at the hands of their boyfriends or husbands who miss out on the chance of justice? That the system is failing those people who genuinely do not consent to sex or any kind of sexual advances.
David Starkey.
Obviously, Douglas is right. The teacher behaved disgracefully. But the other side of the story is more important. With the proper concern about the seduction of children, the abuse of children, I think we're beginning now absolutely to become Victorian. We're starting to idealise childhood. We're starting to say, in a sense, suddenly there is this magic moment at the age of consent when you become fully sexual and fully adult. In fact, it's a very long and complex process. A girl of 16...
You've missed the point totally. Douglas, got the point completely. It's about the abuse of power. It's about
No,
the trust.
sorry, shut up. You're very good at saying the obvious.
No, I know what the law is. I know what the offence is, and it was because of the abuse of trust and power. There's a specific
We
offence
were
to
asked
stop
a question.
people
We were
doing
asked
this.
a question about the behaviour of the child.
No.
I am trying to answer
About the
the
judge.
question on the behaviour of the child. I am saying I have seen 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old boys and girls that were highly mature sexually, that were profoundly manipulative and knew exactly what they wanted.
no,
For an
this is
adult,
rubbish.
for an
Absolute
adult to
rubbish.
surrender to it is wrong. We're not denying that. But can we stop idealising children?
This is
Haven't you read
rubbish.
Freud?
Absolute rubbish.
All right,
Absolute rubbish.
stop abusing each
I'm
other.
sorry, but no,
The
well, it's
question-
not offensive.
the question, the question was, can a 44-year-old teacher be groomed
Yes,
by
is the
a
answer.
16-year-old
Yes.
schoolgirl?
No.
And David Starkey
No,
is
not
saying
wrong.
yes.
Well, he's wrong.
It's possible. What do you think?
He's wrong.
He can be wait, can we replace the word groom by seduced?
No, because
Yes,
no,
yes,
because there's a difference.
yes.
No, groomed is how-
No, shall we
The
have...
man who cares about words, my God, you don't half abuse them on this programme. There's a profound difference.
Sorry, he set him... And a judge listened to this carefully, clearly. As far as I can see the case, she set him up. She excited him. She did. He was wrong. He was wrong to respond.
44-year-old
He
man.
was, yeah, I know, but he's wrong to respond.
David,
But the-
I've been a probation officer for 23 years. I've worked with hundreds of sex offenders.
Yeah.
It helps absolutely no one to blur the boundaries between childhood and adulthood.
Absolutely right.
Responsibility lies absolutely with the adult, and the statements by yourself and by the judge in this case feeds into the distorted views
It's
of
not
sex offenders.
absolutely right.
It's merely a recognition of reality.
No, it
All right,
is.
Mehdi Hassan.
Look, I totally agree with what Douglas was saying earlier. I'm the father of 2 girls. When you leave your children at school, I mean, apart from the parents, where do children spend most time with teachers? And you expect trust, you expect responsibility, and this guy clearly abused both trust and responsibility. And the phrase used was grooming by the judge, and, you know, outrageous remarks by the judge. I mean, we expect outrageous remarks from David Starkey, but from a judge, a female judge, basically victim blaming. She didn't just talk about grooming, she talked about stalking, she talked about obsession, and she made
All
this,
the things
she
I've
made,
been
she
talking
made
about,
this,
and she heard the
She made
evidence.
this one remark. She made this one remark. She said to this teacher, she said, if she hadn't been obsessed with you, this wouldn't have happened, which is totally wrong, because it wouldn't have happened had he said no, 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 gone to the head teacher and said, can you put her in a different class, rather than have sex with her twice a week after his wife had a miscarriage. What a piece of
His
work this guy
behaviour was
is.
disgraceful. We're not arguing about
Bridget.
that.
I want to come back to this point about his role as a teacher. Most teachers in secondary school also help to guide the young people in their charge on moral matters, and particularly about emerging relationships and emerging sexuality. Most teachers you talk to will see that every day. This is an extra special area of trust. How can he guide other children but regard himself as exempt from it? That's what I find particularly despicable in this case. And he really... I mean, I'm delighted he's been banned ever from teaching again. That was the minimum that could happen. I'm particularly concerned about the woman judge's words, because the other thing is no one has talked about the young woman in this case and the support that she and other young victims like herself are going to need. She may have been manipulative, but it might have been a learnt behaviour because she had had something else in the past. We don't know. The point is, she was still at school, she was there to have support and to be able to rely on supervision elsewhere, and if I were her parent, I would be absolutely appalled at her being blamed for this.
All right, I'm going to move on to a question that is at the heart of this.